Welcome to Why We're Fans. I'm Duran, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Gennaro.
In all of our episodes, we cover the past, present, and the future of all your favorite NFL football teams.
We love hearing your stories, talking the NFL draft, and reminiscing about the good old days.
If you like the same, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this episode. And leave a comment below if you want to answer any of our questions.
Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on our latest interviews. And like we always say, win or lose, we're all fans. Enjoy this episode.
And welcome back to another episode of Why We're Fans. Gennaro and Duran here. Thank you so much for joining in today. Pretty excited to talk to this fan. You don't get to talk to the team that has the first draft choice overall too much. So appreciate it. We got Michael Phillips. Michael, how you doing today, buddy?
Man, I'm doing well. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited for it.
Nice, man. Go ahead and plug any work you're working on and where we can find you on social media and whatnot.
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at Mike Phillips OG, capital O, capital G. I write for Jaguar Report. It's if you go to si.com/Jaguars, you should be able to find it. And I also host a podcast called Jaguars Brawl. Me and my co-host Lori Fitzpatrick, we get into basically just all things Jaguars, which there's obviously a lot of things that have been going on over the last few months with them. So we get into that about every week. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hell yeah, man. Shout out to the Brawl Network. Always, you guys are doing big things over there. Gotta love it.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I definitely enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Duran, how you doing today, man?
Good. Like you said, man, this team is making a lot of moves, new coach, lots of free agents, tons of draft capital. Hopefully we could hit it all today.
Speaking of the moves, shout out to Iron Ox hooking us up again with some Mason Saunders. I think that's so awesome. And they actually gave me a new hat. So let's go ahead and put that on. Feel like a first-round draft pick, baby.
Looking good.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, Duran, you ready to get into this?
Absolutely.
All right, Michael, you ready?
Yeah, man.
All right, let's get it on. So, first things first, how did it all start? How did you start cheering on for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, we were talking right before we started. You guys were asking me where I'm at. I live here in Jacksonville. I was born and raised here, so that's how it started for me. I grew up with teal and black all around me. There's actually video of me that my mom took when I was like a year old, and that jumper thing that they put little kids in, watching Natron Means, an old running back for the Jags back in the late 90s when they first got started, tearing off like a 60-yarder, and I'm like jumping up and down and just getting into it. So it's pretty much just born and bred for me.
Nice. So that means your parents are Jags fans too?
Yeah, they are. My mom actually grew up in Jacksonville her entire life. My dad's from Virginia, but moved down here about 30 years ago. And they had season tickets from like 1995 when they first started through like 2001, 2002, I think.
Day ones.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Natron, he was only with you guys for about a year, wasn't he? I mean, I know he
went
to UNC.
Yeah, I think it was a couple years, I believe. He had a great, fantastic run in the playoffs. They played Buffalo in the divisional round, I believe, or the wild card round. Like the first year they made the playoffs when Buffalo had Jim Kelly and all their crazy great teams that were making the Super Bowls every year. Mm-hmm. And he ran for like 160 yards in that game. And it's kind of like that was his best game ever as a Jaguar. It was like a legend, at least amongst Jaguar fans.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful. Growing up in the area, did you ever get a chance to go to any training camps or practices?
Yeah, I did. I used to go to practice. My dad and I used to go to practices usually at least once in off season. We would try to get out to one. But the coolest thing, when I was in high school, the high school that I played football at, they actually practiced there one year. And so we went out and we got to meet some of the players and talk to them. It was that was crazy. That was a lot of fun.
Any players stand out to you?
Mercedes Lewis, man.
Oh,
Mercedes Lewis, he was the guy. He was so cool. He was so welcoming and just interactive with us. And, I think 15 at the time, and it was just one of the coolest moments ever. I got to meet him. Marquise Lee was really, really cool. He was, I think, in his rookie or second year, and he was just a lot of fun. And Paul Postlesny, who had traps up to his ear, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny. So that's cool. You did you happen to get any of their autographs or anything?
I've gotten a few autographs. I think my parents had gotten autographs before. We have a Mark Brunell like signed mini helmet kind of thing. But I didn't have that practice that I'm talking about. I didn't have a pin or like a Sharpie or anything to sign. So I didn't really get too many autographs. I got pictures though. So that was cool.
That's cool. That counts. It means you were there.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember the first Jaguars game you ever went to?
Oh, no, I don't remember the first one, but I do remember one of the first ones that like at least is in my memory was they were playing the Colts at home and Josh Scobie hit a 59-yarder to win the game at the end. His clock ran out and he ran around the field like a madman. It was hilarious.
Like a soccer player.
Yeah, exactly.
If it sounds like you've been to the stadium a lot of times, just having season tickets in the family. Do you have any tips for us if we went out there to go visit? What should we do?
Don't go in September.
Don't
go in September.
Wait till
it's
it
too
cools
hot.
down a little bit.
Way too hot.
Yeah, exactly. Wait till it cools down. It's great when it's November and it's 73 degrees and sunny, and everywhere else it's snowy or 18 degrees in Green Bay or something like that, and it's all gray. Those days are a lot of fun. I remember seeing people in September for like the first game of the season pass out due to heat exhaustion. It happened all the time. People were passing out left and right. Usually yeah, exactly. Usually at the first game every season there's a bunch of people that pass out.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, hell yeah. So how's game day look for you? Do you have any kind of superstitions when you're watching the game? And if so, like what are they? And are you a live tweeter? What's going on? What's your game day ritual?
Yeah, I'm a live tweeter. Usually I don't really have rituals per se. Now, if something's going right during the game and I did a particular thing, whether I took my socks off or something like that, then I will not wear my socks for like the next couple of games until things go badly again, which over the last, 10 years, I guess, outside of 2017, that's usually the case more often than not. So not really too many superstitions, but I do live tweet usually throughout the game.
Awesome.
Nice. Got to give you a follow. What do you like to do? Watch it alone? Do you go to any bars? Do you watch it with a couple buddies?
Yeah, and I prefer watching it alone. I like listening to the broadcast. I like hearing what's going on. If I'm watching it with some friends, I'm cool with that. But if there's like Super Bowl parties, I'm so against Super Bowl parties. I hate them. I can't stand them. I want to watch the game. I really don't even want people talking to me all that much. That's just me. I just enjoy getting kind of zoned in on what's going on.
I feel.
Do you have like a broadcast team that you prefer when you listen to? Because I know when the new TV deal goes through with the NFL, Amazon's taking all the Thursday night games, and you can choose what broadcast you want to listen to as far as announcers go. So do you have a pair that you definitely like, or one that you prefer?
Yeah, I like Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Tony's pretty damn good. I like Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth. I don't have necessarily a favorite. I just have guys. There are guys that I don't like. I don't like Troy Aikman and Joe Buck at all. They bore me. Yeah. Joe Buck I think he's a great Hall of Fame baseball caller, broadcaster, but I do not really like him on football games. That's just me though.
Yeah, he gets a lot of heat.
Yeah, he does.
Joe Buck gets a lot of heat out there. I always look at your guys' division, and it always seems like it's wide open to me. Who do you consider your guys' number one rival?
Ooh, Tennessee by a mile. Tennessee, you could, if we never played Tennessee again after 1999, they would still be Jacksonville's biggest rival because Jacksonville went 14-2 in 1999, was the number one seed in the playoffs. Their two regular season losses were both to Tennessee.
Wow. They
made it to the AFC Championship game at home, and they played Tennessee, and they lost again to get to the Super Bowl. That was the Dyson at the goal line Super Bowl between the Titans and the Rams.
Yep.
That's so well known. And yeah, it should have been Jacksonville in that game, but Tennessee, that they had their Music City Miracle like 2 weeks before that, I think, against Buffalo. And then they just rolled through and they beat Jacksonville at home. And it wasn't even much of a fight, but yeah, Tennessee for sure.
That's a tough one. G, anything else for this section?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Have you been to home games for Jacksonville? Correct.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Have you been to any away games? And if not, do you have any on your bucket list as far as stadium goes? I know me and Duran do.
No.
No.
Yeah. Everyone's got bucket list stadiums. I've not been to a Jaguars away game,
Okay.
but whenever they play Green Bay up in Lambeau, I got to go to that. I've been to Jerry World. I see Duran, you got a Cowboys hat on. Obviously, I've been there, and that place is cool. But I went there for a college game actually. So I haven't seen the Jaguars play there, but that was an incredible stadium. And I would love to go to the new Vegas stadium. I'd love to go to the new Rams Charger stadium. Those places look sweet.
Yeah, those two stadiums look awesome. I totally love those stadiums. I mean, the Raiders stadium looks like the Death Star, for Christ's sakes. I think that looks sick.
Man. I saw jokes. People were posting that it looks like a massive Roomba. Yeah,
that's funny. Do you play fantasy football at all?
Oh yeah. I won my league this past year.
Are you a Jaguars fan or players biased when you draft? Or
no. I stay away from the Jags.
Okay.
Outside of this year, if you had any Jaguars on your team outside of James Robinson, you were upset. They were terrible in fantasy.
Okay. I bet. I know DJ Chark was drafted pretty high on one of my leagues.
Yeah, so. He's decent, but he's hit or miss in fantasy.
Yeah, he needs a co-anchor or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hopefully
we get one.
James Robinson was probably free this year too. A lot of people got him as free agent.
Yeah.
All right, so on to the next section. Me and Duran, we like to guess your favorite player. So don't give us any hints yet. Duran, if you want to go first, have at it.
I'm going with Mercedes Lewis, the legend.
All right. I'm gonna go with Fred Taylor. My first gut feeling. It's either Fred Taylor or MJD. I'm leaning towards Fred Taylor. The all-time leading rusher.
Okay, those are great guesses. But my favorite player, my favorite all-time player, is actually it's not a Jaguar. It's Joe Montana.
Let's go.
He was the GOAT up until 4 years ago. I would say. I just love the way that he played. I love the stories about him. Growing up, I played quarterback and I always wore 16 because of him, because I tried to model my game after him. For all time Jaguars, it's Mark Brunell. I loved Mark Brunell.
Wow. So did you play quarterback?
I did. Yeah. I played quarterback up until my senior year of high school. And then I played tight end.
Were you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
You're right-handed?
Right-handed. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. Mark Brunell was lefty, right?
Yeah,
he was lefty.
Yeah,
him and Steve Young, they were 8 and were left-handed.
Yeah, I was watching some film and I noticed that actually today that he's left-handed. Good old Mark Brunell. Is there any one play or game or anything that kind of sticks out to you? What made you become a Mark Brunell fan?
The game against Denver in the playoffs in '96. It was the 96-97 season, so I don't know if it had gotten to 97 yet, but they upset the John Elway Broncos, and Mark Brunell went off. He threw for 230 yards, which at the time was, that's really good for passing. Mm-hmm. And he had a really good completion. He had just a fantastic game. He ran the ball really well. So yeah, that game stands out probably the most for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He had 245 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And John Elway had a similar game. He had 226 and 2 touchdowns. Neither one of them threw an interception, but like you said, Mark Brunell had the 44 yards on the ground, and the Jaguars ended up winning 27-30.
Yep.
Wow, that was
man.
Was that the second year? Yeah, that's the second year Jaguars were there. Tom Coughlin really got that thing up and running then.
You know what's hilarious about that is I don't know if you guys watch Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, but if that year is ever brought up, if that game is ever brought up, Shannon Sharp is still incredibly bitter about losing to the Jaguars and having their season ended by them. It's hilarious.
So I know a lot of 49er fans over here were, the older generation were a little bit bitter when Steve Young took over. How did you feel, being a big fan of Joe Montana when you see him shipped off to KC and you see another lefty, take over?
I mean, I wasn't born yet at the time, so it's looking back on it, reading up on my history about it. It seemed like they kind of pulled what Bill Belichick tried to pull with Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. They kind of were ready to move off Joe Montana maybe a year early, so like it's kind of like he still got some left in the tank, and he proved that he still had some left in the tank when he went to Kansas City and made the playoffs. But Steve Young, he was fantastic, man. He was a lot of fun to watch. So, yeah, I don't like seeing my favorite player get kind of passed over necessarily. But, Steve Young was fantastic. He was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, as a 49er fan myself, Steve Young is my favorite quarterback because that's who I grew up watching. I'm pretty sure, my older brother and my dad and my mom could remember Joe Montana for sure. But Steve Young, he's that athletic dude that can just do it. He can run. He's no Mike Vick when he's running, but he can sling it.
Dude, man, he had wheels, man. He had some incredibly Hall of Fame runs.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
That stumble into the end zone. I remember that highlight going all over the field. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, man, I bet that's crazy. That's crazy for sure. So, you got Mark Burnell. You said he was your favorite Jaguars, right?
Yes, he was.
All right. Just for a 4-pack of beer here. Can you name the college he went to?
Ooh. Washington.
Yep, there you go.
Yes.
Send me your address. I'll send some your way for sure.
Shout out. That's great.
Duran always likes to ask, if he was Batman, who was his Robin?
Ooh. Okay, so could he have Robin and like Batgirl? Because he had Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell, who were arguably the best.
We'll call them the Justice League. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. But having Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell to throw to, that they were thunder and lightning for a reason, man. So I can't just pick one of them two. And then obviously Fred is a Hall of Famer, at least Fred Taylor in my book. In the Hall of Fame doesn't necessarily see it that way, but having him back there too is a blessing.
I definitely know what it's like and not having a running back in the Hall of Fame, man. I'm on the table for Roger Craig for sure. But yeah, Jimmy Smith is someone who I definitely remember because I played receiver growing up, and watching that guy run routes, it was very deceptive because the way he would run routes, he'd make an out route, look like he's selling the post. He'd sell something so different, and he'd be on the DB's toes. So it's super hard to adjust to that, especially as a DB. It's so late, and that late reaction it's crazy. It's hard being a DB for sure, especially being a DB covering Jimmy Smith. Good luck.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, his number one touchdown completions were number one, Jimmy Smith, 44 touchdowns. Number two, Keenan McCardell, 26. So you hit it right on the head right there.
Yeah, man. And if Jimmy Smith, I will die on this hill. If Jimmy Smith was still in a Cowboys uniform for his entire career, he'd probably be in the Hall of Fame already.
Well, I was looking at it today, and just stat-wise, I don't think touchdowns, but yards and receptions, he had better numbers than Michael Irvin did.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But Michael Irvin was part of 3 Super Bowl teams and played for America's team. So,
yep. The winning helps. Yep. He actually had a guy that was kind of similar. He has better numbers than Calvin Johnson. So,
oh shit, I did not know that. Calvin Johnson,
no Super Bowl, but he put up a tons of yards and was just a freak during his time. But Jimmy Smith, underrated guy.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I'm looking at his 99 season right now, and that's 116 reception yards. He has 1,636 yards. That's crazy, man. Especially to have 116 receptions in a season. It's nuts, especially back
and that
then.
Was and yeah, exactly. That was 1999 when the air raid that we have now was not part of the league.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think I was only 11, but I definitely remember him being like, dude, like, how's this expansion team just killing it?
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Paul Plesnelsley. Did I say that right?
Paul Plesnelsley, but close enough, yeah.
I know you mentioned him earlier. Can you think of one player that's a little bit underrated as a Jaguar all time? He was one that came to mind for me. And then another guy that I just remember seeing back then was Matt Jones. I don't think he was as underrated, but he was just a character.
Yeah, I was not a fan of Matt Jones when he was here.
Of course. Yeah.
I didn't like him. He let me down. He had so much hype.
Yep.
Seemed like he kind of walked in with he knew that he was perceived as very good, so I wasn't the biggest fan of him. But underrated Jaguars, I got two. Rashean Mathis, the corner, was at one point arguably the best corner in the league for a year or two at least, and was consistently a top 5 corner in his prime. He was very, very good. He single-handedly, basically, not single-handedly, but he was a major factor when they upset Pittsburgh up in 2007 in their wild card game that they won.
Yep.
He had 2 interceptions, one that he returned for a touchdown, so that was massive. He was always good. And then Donovan Darius was a safety that nobody even here really remembers all that well. He was number 20. He was fantastic. He was just consistently always in the right place, making the best plays, at the right times. And he was just very, very consistent throughout his career. He was very good.
Yeah, I like that first one for sure. I saw a thing today. Do you think Rashean Mathis could be the best defensive player in Jags history?
Ooh.
He was called
maybe. Yeah, I think right now, I think he would probably have that title. Although you could make the argument if you're basing your argument just on best and not and you take longevity out of it. I think you might even have to say that Jalen Ramsey is in that discussion too, just because of how good he was for the short amount of time that he was in Jacksonville. And I know Jaguars fans don't want to think about that because of how it ended, but he was damn good. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say Rashean. Miles Jack, though, right now, if he continues to play as good as he has been the last few years, he could potentially take that over. And Paul Posluszny is in that conversation too.
Yep. Rashean Mathis has 2 times as many interceptions and pass deflections as the next guy below him in franchise history. So that I think it's fit. He has 30 career interceptions. The next guy's like 15 or something.
Yeah.
But Jalen Ramsey might have been catching up to him if he would have been there for a long period of time.
Yeah, if he didn't fake a back injury and try to get out of town, he would have, he might have.
I think we'll get to that in a second.
Oh, yeah.
G, ready to move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Moving on now, we want to know, do you have a favorite coach in Jaguars history?
I'd say Tom Coughlin. Although when I was really growing up, I was born in 97. So like the great Jaguar teams under him, where I was kind of too young to really appreciate them. I've obviously looked back and watched everything about them. Jack Del Rio, I loved him. Actually, he was really cool, but Tom Coughlin is definitely the best coach in Jaguars history. So I gotta go with him.
Yeah, for sure.
You got it. So Coughlin was the first coach ever. Then he became the front office guy. I saw that. Del Rio, he was the second coach. I mean, I feel like all these guys, and then Gus Bradley, Doug Marrone, who ended just recently. But I feel like all these guys had some type of success. They all had like the 10-win season, and it seemed promising, but they just couldn't get over the
Pretty
hump.
much, yeah. The only one that had more than 1 or 2 decent playoff contending years was Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
4 consecutive playoff runs, and he's the only coach to end his career there with a winning record.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good one. How did you feel when he left and then got the 2 Super Bowls with the Giants?
It was more so just feeling happy for him, because when he left Jacksonville, they left on pretty decent terms, I thought. So I didn't have any bitterness to him. It didn't seem like he left because he didn't believe in Jacksonville anymore. He just, look, Jacksonville in the grand scope of the NFL is obviously not a top upper echelon team, at least popularity wise. Getting to go to the New York Giants and be in the Big Apple and that kind of brand of, I don't blame him for leaving. I don't at all. I don't blame him for taking that opportunity. And so, yeah, I thought it was cool to see him win 2 titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Do you have anything on Coughlin?
Not as a coach, no.
You got it. I just going through his coaching tree, guys that he hired underneath him: Don Capers, Dick Duran, Lane Kiffin, Ben McAdoo, Matt Rule, Steve Spagnuolo, Tony Sperano. And the funny part is, I noticed that all these guys that kind of were underneath, they got hired back at both places that he worked at. So the NFL, really is cool. A family. It's really like an inside type of thing. And you don't see many coaches get hired from the outside. It's usually someone's son or someone that's been working in the with the team forever. So that really stood out to me.
Yeah, and for sure. Yeah, that's usually what happens is guys bring in their guys, quote unquote, and guys that they've worked with before, or guys that they've worked with have worked with before, and that's almost 99% of the time how it goes. Urban Meyer, who just got hired here, the first hire that he made of anybody was Charlie Strong, who's one of their linebacker coaches and is technically the assistant head coach, who he obviously worked with at Florida, has spent a lot of time with before. And so guys that you're comfortable with, that you bring in, that you trust, and you know how they work. And that's who they brought in.
Yep. Charlie's a Texas guy too. Texas Longhorns.
Yes, he is.
Hook him. Got that. Do you have a least favorite coach of all time?
Ooh. You could pick a decent, there's a few. Mike Mularkey, who was the coach here for about a year or two. Yeah. He was awful. He was just he was in over his head. He didn't know how to manage this team. He was bad. And then Gus Bradley, who players liked because he was really easy on them, to be honest. And he was a player's coach coming from Seattle, and it got bad towards the end of it really quickly. It started off really bad too. I think he took over in like 2013 after Mike Mularkey was fired, and he walked into a complete mess. So I felt bad for him, but he didn't improve hardly at all. So he was just not good.
Yeah, Mularkey, the one season went 2-12.
Yeah,
that was a tough one to walk into, though.
Yeah, it was
definitely. You ready to move on, G?
Yeah, let's move it on.
Let's skip ahead just a little bit to your favorite or your best memory being a Jaguars fan. I mean, it could be a playoff game, a game that you attended, a classic play, anything like that, a draft class.
Okay, so my favorite memory was probably the Hail Mary game. I was at the game where David Garrard threw up a Hail Mary against Houston. They batted it down right into Mike Thomas's hands at like the 1 or 2, and he just stepped into the end zone. It was just pandemonium crazy. And that season, I don't think help them make it. They didn't even make the playoffs that year or anything like that. It was just, that moment was just that crazy. It was a lot of fun.
I'm watching it right now versus Houston. It was about a 55-yard pass.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Texans played it almost perfully. They just batted the ball out of the end zone, and one of the Jaguars happened to catch it and walk
good old Mike Thomas.
Yep, I do remember that one now. The original Mike Thomas.
Yeah.
Yep. One memory that I did want to bring up, we touched on it a little bit with Jalen Ramsey, was I was really jealous at the time of your guys' 2016 draft class. That was the draft that I wanted. I wanted Jalen Ramsey over Zeke. I wanted Miles Jack over our linebacker that we got. I forget his name. Jalen Smith. But in the third round, you guys also got Yannick Ngakoue, followed it up with Sheldon Day, who had a little bit of success in the NFL. And then we still could have got Dak in the 5th round. But were you hyped up for that draft class? Did you come out of that feeling like a winner?
Absolutely. When, day one, when they got Jalen Ramsey, I was so as upset as you were that you guys didn't take Jalen Ramsey. I was so ecstatic that you took Ezekiel Elliott, because I knew that meant that Jacksonville was going to get Jalen. And I was not sure that he was going to fall there. I figured he was going to fall to 3 or 4. He wasn't going to go top 2. but I figured at 3 or 4, I was convinced that Dallas was going to take him. And then they didn't. And I was like, oh, they have to take it. Like, I was worried that they weren't going to take him because it was so obvious. But they did the right thing and they took him. And then Miles Jack was talked about as just a freak athlete, maybe the biggest athlete in the draft at the time, and was projected, I think, to go mid to late first round. Slipped a little bit because I think there was some injury concerns with him. Yeah, he had a knee injury. So he was able to slip and fall down, and Jackson was able to get him. And then to get Yannick Ngakoue as well was just, that was just lucking out, honestly. It was, it was fantastic.
Yeah, Miles Jack was supposed to have like a chronic knee injury.
Yeah.
That happened. And what I remember about that draft class, I love Miles Jack. In the same week at UCLA, he got the offense and defensive player of the week. He was doubling as running back and linebacker.
Yeah, I remember there was a game, I believe, I watched ESPN had their college football final show, and I remember watching late Saturday night or early Sunday morning. They were doing the show, and they gave out their helmet stickers, and Miles Jack got one because he had over 100 yards and 10 tackles in the game.
Holy shit. Yeah. Yep, he was doing it. Do you got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, one guy in the draft that draft class you guys did mention who I did like, who was very underappreciated. He was more of like a rotational type of guy, but it's Sheldon Day. It's not because he played for the 49ers, but it's because he was just a dude that, that brought in his lunch pail and went to work. I mean, it was said about that when, he was playing for Charlie Weiss, when he was playing for the Jaguars, when he was playing for the 49ers, and now when he's playing for the Colts. Like, it was just awesome to hear. That guy was just a rotational type of guy. He was pretty much known just to take up blocks, and that's something that he did do, especially there at Jacksonville. But, he was never really I guess a sexy type of pick, but a guy in the trenches doing work like that, that's something that you got to appreciate. I know you guys later replaced him when you guys drafted Tevin Bryant, but that's definitely something that, I did like when you guys drafted him. I mean, I'm not a big Notre Dame fan, but I appreciate talent when talent is due. So, Sheldon Day was one of my
they could have really used him over the last year or so. I was upset when he was no longer on the team anymore, and they replaced him. I find that hilarious that they replaced him with Taven Bryan, who is I might be better than Taven Bryan at what he's trying to do. I can't believe they still haven't cut him at this point yet. It's ridiculous.
Let's move on just a little bit. We want to know your worst memory being a Jaguars fan, but let's just start with that because honestly, I was kind of high on Taven Bryan. He was like very quick off the snap in college, and he went to Florida and just got to the NFL. Never even became like a starter, I don't think.
So here's a funny story. I went to Florida at the same time that he was, obviously there. And I interned with this site, this rivals.com, if you guys have heard of it. So I was at the pro day. I was, trying to do some sports journalism stuff. And we were at his pro day and there was this media scrum and we were talking to him. I asked him 2 questions. And based off those 2 questions, I would have said he's undraftable because he's not a thinker. He doesn't have, I don't want to be too mean about it, but he really doesn't have a whole lot going on up here. He's a big, strong, physical guy, but he's a meathead. And if we know anything about the NFL, it's brain usually wins 99% of the time. And he didn't know that showed in the NFL where he didn't know what gaps to go into. He didn't know how to take on multiple blocks and do his assignment. So he was out of position, out of place, not knowing where to go a lot. And you can't have that.
No. Yep. That's just like this year we heard Matt Rule mention he did an elevator ride with a prospect that was supposed to be a top 10 player last year. And just in that elevator ride, he knew that he had never draft that player. So that quick, he knew it.
Like you said, he didn't have it between the years. And I remember listening to Duran because Duran got to watch Brian first. And he's like, man, this guy looks like a, dope kid. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then, he went to Jacksonville. I'm not saying that, draft picks go there to die, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, turn on the switch. Where the fuck is it? You know what I mean? I couldn't see it. It frustrated me because I myself, when I started watching them, I was like, oh, okay, I can see this, but it's something that only works in the college level, I guess, because I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, he was the classic example of he could out physical and just overpower guys in college. And at this point, at this level, everybody's good, everybody's strong, everybody knows what to do, and they're fast, they're quick, they're big. You can't just overpower guys at this level.
Yeah, it's like when muscle stops working, you got to start using your brain and your heart. And he didn't have any of those. He just said the muscle, man. Like they didn't really work out, like you said. Everyone's strong, everyone's fast here.
Yeah, and I don't even think he really has a passion for football at all. And that I saw
I can see
the
that.
guy that runs the Senior Bowl. He tweeted out a few days ago about like
Jim
most. Jim Nagy. He tweeted out a few days ago that most of these players, at least prospects and guys in the league, they're not passionate about football. They like it as their job, but football is not really, they don't really want to be football players per se. And that's most guys.
All right, let's jump into future expectations. They got a lot of stuff to cover. So you guys are coming in, of course, number one pick. I'm assuming you guys think you're going to get Trevor Lawrence.
Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence.
No, don't put that juju on me.
So Trevor Lawrence, you guys also got 6 picks in the top 107, which I always look at the top 100 picks. I think those are the prime ones. Is there a direction in the draft where you want to go with there? Do you want to get them some weapons? Offensive line, defensive line, what are you thinking there?
I mean, a key move was to locking down Robinson, so I like that. I mean,
tagging Cam Robinson was good at left tackle. I think it was more of an insurance policy because they weren't sure how free agency was going to go. I would still actually like them to draft another tackle or at least another offensive lineman, guard, center, whatever.
Trade back in, get Rashawn Slater.
Maybe. I mean, he might go top 10, top 15, top 12 though. He's really good.
He is.
But in terms of what they absolutely need, tight end is number 1, 2, 3 for me. They need a tight end desperately. I was so upset when not only Johnny Smith, he signed early to New England, and then Hunter freaking Henry signs in the same place, man. Now, what crap is that? It was awful. And then all right, number 3, the guy in that was in LA, Gerald Everett, is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, Everett. He goes to Seattle, and I was like, all right. Well, that's every tight end that I wanted. Zach Ertz is out there potentially. And he would still be the best tight end on the roster by a mile, but he's obviously at the end of his career. So, a lot of people here love Kyle Pitts because obviously he's at Florida and he's just a massive freak. I don't know if y'all saw today. He ran a 4.4640 working out today. He posted that video, which is just insane.
Are you going to release the marijuana smoke gas mask that he has? Drop or what?
Yeah, I got to get a hold of that video so he falls down to Jacksonville 25.
He still might only fall down to like 10.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think people are going to pass on him because
the best
he's just that
quarterback
good.
Prospect in this draft.
It's legal now.
Yeah. But if they don't get Pitts, I think Freiermuth at Penn State is a very good option, as well as Brevin Jordan at Miami. He's a great pass catching tight end. They brought in the guy from Carolina, Manhurts, who is a very good blocking tight end. And they still need to address a pass catching one. So definitely tight end. I think safety as well. Trevon Moehrig from TCU is fantastic. I think he would be good. The kid out of Oregon is pretty damn good too if they want to go in that direction. If Moehrig goes, Holland. And so safety, absolutely. I do think they should, even though they got Shaquille Griffin from Seattle, I think they should add one more corner. And then they added a lot on the defensive line. I think they should go after a linebacker for sure to be they got Miles Jack, and then they have the guy at middle whose name escapes me right now, Joe Schobert. And so I think they need the guy opposite him, especially since they're switching to a 3-4 now under Joe Cullen. They need another linebacker. And then I think they need a slot receiver. They really need a good slot receiver. They brought in Marvin Jones, who's now going to take over what Chris Conley was as the number 2. He may even be the number 1 here, depending on how they feel about DJ Chark. But they definitely, I think, one more receiver. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I think maybe another running back. I'm not the biggest Carlos Hyde fan, but they seem to be really high on him, and he loves Urban Meyer. So and he had a great career in Houston over the last few years, so he might be good. But yeah, I'd say tight end, safety, corner, O-line, D-line still, and linebacker and a slot receiver.
Don't
Love
forget
it.
about the Notre Dame tight end, man. I mean, Trumbull, man, he's actually pretty solid. If you
Not
take a
bad.
look at him, he's pretty solid.
I love their tackle too, Liam Etchenberg,
Yes.
Eichenberg, whatever how you say his name.
Yeah,
I think he's really good.
Yeah, I think he's very underrated. I mean, this tackle class is really solid. You got Swell, Darasol, Slater. You got the name escapes me, but he's out of USC. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's like Elijah Vera Tucker, something like that.
There's Tucker. That's him.
Yeah.
You know, there's solid linemen in this draft for sure. So I can see that. But go ahead, Duran.
Do you have a favorite free agent that you guys just signed? I know you signed a slew of guys. The short list: Shaq Griffin, Rayshawn Jenkins, Roy Robertson Harris, Jamal Agnew, Marvin Jones. Is there anyone that you're most hyped for?
Respect to that.
Yeah, Tyson Alualu. I love him. He was fantastic here, and he even got better once he went to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's my number 2 guy, but Shaquille Griffin, the need plus his ability and where he's at right now, I thought was just paramount that they get somebody that to come in for that. And so I'd definitely say him.
Yep. Yeah. I wanted him bad.
Yeah, I'm loving that DJ Henderson is working out for you guys. I mean, our guy Croc, shout out to Eric Crocker. He's on the podcast here earlier in the season, and he straight up said, like, DJ Henderson is cornerback number 1. It's not going to be the dude from Ohio State. It's escaping my name right now.
Yeah. I can't remember his name off the top of my head either.
Yeah, like
Jeff something.
Akuda.
Jeff Okuda, that's right.
Like he's going to be the CB2. Like Henderson's going to be CB1 for sure. And he proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah,
so much appreciated, man. I hope he works out for you guys for sure.
Yeah, I do too. And you know what's hilarious about his draft? All his draft stuff is everyone kept talking about that he's not a willing tackler or he's not a good tackler. He doesn't come up. He's not physical enough, dude. If I was at Florida when he was there, so I watched a lot of him. But I don't know if people like these draft analysts just didn't watch him very much, but he was a very willing tackler. And he showed that in the league in his first game too, against the Colts. Like it baffled my mind that people kept talking about how he's not like tackling was such an issue for him. He was a great tackler. There's a play that he had against Tennessee, maybe arguably his best play of his entire career, where he chased down a would-be touchdown by Tennessee, forced a fumble out of the end zone to get a touchback. Off their tight end, and he ran him down from all the way across the field, and he threw him down. It was and punched the ball out. It was fantastic. So the whole narrative around his lack of ability to tackle or unwillingness to do so was just idiotic.
The best fucking cornerback in the game today, like ever to play the game, wasn't the best tackler. Deion Primetime Sanders, and he was a fucking beast. And DJ, Henderson is a monster. You know what I mean? Like when like you said, like people were saying that he wasn't the best tackler. He didn't get out effort, and to see him do what he did against Tennessee was awesome. So
yeah,
that's
and what's funny is like corners tackling is not their number 1 trait. That's not what they're there to do. They're there to cover guys. If they're the guys that have to tackle, you have a bad defense.
Exactly.
Guys set the edge for a reason, so they don't get out to those corners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last question for me is, we all know it's nearly impossible to turn a team around in one season, one off season, but you guys got Urban Meyer there now. Is there anything that you hope to see or expect to see in his first season there?
Absolutely. I expect to see speed and a just intensity that has lacked in Jacksonville for a very long time. It's this, everyone calls it culture. I'm not a big fan of using the term culture. It's just what you do day in and day out. It's commitment to excellence. Urban Meyer has a saying, 4 to 6 seconds, you give it everything you have. 4 to 6 seconds is the average length of a play. You give it everything you have for that amount of time. No matter what happens, you will come out victorious. You will have success or you at least grow and build. And Urban Meyer is exactly that. He amplifies exactly how to come in and figure out how to win and maintain a level of success that a lot of places, a lot of coaches cannot, emulate. He's a rare breed when it comes to figuring out how to win and then maintaining it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys even brought in the Ohio State strength and conditioning coach, Coach Schleggs, and I think that's awesome. I mean, every player that played for him is like, oh man, props to Anthony Schlegel. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, even AJ Hawk does, and AJ Hawk's a fucking legend over there at Ohio State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I mean, I'm excited to see it for sure. I mean, I'm a big fan of, a lot of people not a big fan of Urban Meyer. I like the way he does it. And I know you don't like to use the word culture, but the culture he brings to, Bowling Green, Utah. I mean, I can list on his resume for sure, but every player that played for him is awesome. And I hope you guys bring in Alex Smith, a player that played for him.
Me too.
So, I mean, I feel like that'd be a good move for you guys. I mean, to coach up Trevor Lawrence, like he did Pat Mahomes, because everyone said that when Pat Mahomes was eating lunch, he wasn't even eating lunch. He was pretty much just had a pen and paper and taking notes from Alex Smith while Alex Smith was eating. So, yeah. I mean, I think that's awesome. I think you guys need that in your locker room because Alex Smith is so smart. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about, has mind between the brain,
Yeah.
Has a great brain. Go to Alex Smith.
Yeah, he is the perfect guy to come in for Trevor Lawrence's development. He not only has experience, obviously, just as an NFL quarterback, he knows how to go through adversity and be in a tough situation. He is maybe the prototype when you look at, how they do comparisons of like projections of what this guy could be in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He is athletic like Trevor is. They have a similar size. I think Alex is like an inch or two shorter. They had about similar weights, at least playing weights. Trevor Lawrence weighed in at like 213 at his pro day. He plays at like 220, which is right around where Alex Smith was. He's developed, like you mentioned, helped develop a star quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. He's been in the league forever. He knows how to be a pro. Like, you could go down the list of 6, 7, 8 things that are great positives of why to bring him in. Now, look, I would imagine he's still trying to be a starter somewhere. So if that's the case, then obviously I don't think they should bring him in. But if he's willing to come in with the stipulation of, hey, you're going to be the backup to this incredible star quarterback and you're going to help develop him, and that's going to be your role. If he's willing to accept that, he would be a home run addition to the quarterback room.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Duran?
Yeah, that's it for me for this section. I think we made it through everything.
I mean,
we're rushing.
Yeah, I know you got to go, man. I mean, it was cut short. Maybe we got to bring you on, especially with your co-host Lori. I think that'd be awesome to have you guys both on. That'd be great. If you guys aren't following him already, go ahead and do that. Michael, go ahead and plug any work you're working on, and also let the fans know what you're working on as well, where they can find you. Go ahead. Your time to shine. Hype yourself up.
All right, I appreciate it. Yeah, man. So anybody listening, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Phillips OG. You can go to si.com/Jaguars for Jaguar Report. That's where I do some of my writing. I'm actually working on tomorrow. I'll come out with a piece about where the Jaguars need to where they still need to add pieces after free agency, because that's pretty much done now. So I'll have that up tomorrow if you're interested in that. And then take a listen to Jaguars Brawl. Me and my co-host Lori Fitzpatrick, we come out with an episode about every single week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can get your podcast. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Again, I appreciate it so much, Michael. Smash that subscribe button on Jaguars Brawl. Shout out to to the Brawl Network as well. You guys doing great things. But yeah, I'm excited. So I'm definitely gonna hit that subscribe button because I want to see what you guys had to say, especially having all that capital. Like Duran said, 6 picks in the 106. Yeah.
Yep. Top 107.
Yep. I gotta see what you guys do. I'm always excited to see what you guys do for sure. I love James Robinson, like Duran said, wins you guys a lot of points. Won me some points in my fantasy football league. So I appreciate that. Duran, anything else to say?
That's it, man. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. You see it back here at Why We're Fans.
Yeah, man. Again, look at that at Why We're Fans on Twitter and also on YouTube. Michael, again, thank you so much. Send me your address. I'll send you some shit.
Cheers. Will do, man. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
I appreciate y'all.
All right, later.
Yep.